Joining us now, Washington State Congressman Adam Smith. He's the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee. Congressman, good to have you this evening. So I want to begin with your thoughts on this moment that we're in, the lack of seriousness coming from some of our leadership, while we're sending about 5,000 more troops to the region.
Yeah, two things about it. One, yeah, it is a disgusting way to sell a war, to try to trivialize it and just appeal to people's basic desire to win a game. They've been doing this aggressively on TikTok and other mediums, and sadly, they're having some success. Some people, do get caught up in that. So there's that problem. But the second problem is, in selling it as a game, you sidestep reality. And you saw that in Secretary Hegseth's presser yesterday when he was trying to explain that, well, no, the Strait of Hormuz, it's open. The only problem is the Iranians shooting at the ships going through, which, but that's the problem. So clearly they didn't plan for how to make sure the Strait of Hormuz would stay open, or the sheer cost of it. The war has now spread in a variety of different directions. I think there's some 14 different countries that are involved. We have a full-scale war now between Israel and Lebanon. This thing is spread out of control, even as the president and Secretary Hegseth still try to act like it's something that A, is a game, B, we're winning, and C, it's really simple. It's going to be over. We've already won, really. Even as the war continues, that lack of seriousness undermines having an actual strategy to succeed in any measure, but also to end the conflict at some point.
Speaking of a strategy to succeed and to end the conflict, Congressman, I want to ask you your thoughts on the mixed messaging that has been coming from many of your Republican colleagues, both in the House and the Senate, when asked about what the end game here and what an end looks like. I want to play very quickly some sound from Josh Hawley, Senator from Missouri, and just get your reaction on the other side.
I mean, what is there really that's left to do that we haven't already done? I think we ought to say to our heroes, thank you for a job well done. This has been absolutely amazing. It's been astounding. It's been historic. And now it's time to declare victory.
Congressman, when you hear that, what message does it actually send, and how is it consistent with what the president is saying about the need to push forward?
I mean, that gets into the details problem. Okay, we don't like Iran. We know that. We have conflict. We have reasons for that. Iran's, support for terrorist groups, a whole bunch of different things. But what are we trying to accomplish? And really, it's sort of in two buckets. And they're very different buckets, even though they tend to be confused by people like Senator Hawley and others who are proponents of this war. One is we want to degrade Iran's military capability. Well, one problem with that is by how much? And how lasting will that be? The enormous cost of this war that we've seen would seem to suggest that if we're going to degrade Iran's military capability, it better be significant and lasting. And there's not a lot of evidence that it's going to be, because that brings you into the second bucket, which is changing Iran. Now, that falls into a number of different categories. The ideal outcome for many would be regime change, the Iranian people rising up, having a legitimate government that replaces the Islamic regime that was put in place in 1979. Or short of that, maybe whoever winds up in charge is less hostile to the region. There's no evidence whatsoever that we are any closer to any of those goals on that bucket of changing Iran's government than we were when we started. Also, there's no evidence that we have even a plan that's going to get us to achieve that. And if we don't achieve that, then the first goal of degrading Iran becomes far less of an accomplishment. Okay, you've degraded them, but they're still there. They still have the same hostile intent, and they rebuild. So you haven't really accomplished that much. Now, I do hope that the president, for however he wants to think about it, takes Josh Hawley's advice and stops the war. I mean, if we can stop if we can stop headed down this path, that's better. But then we got to fix everything that came with it, and it makes it clear that there's no clear path for achieving either of those goals that I outlined in any measurable, understandable way.
Congressman, we're reportedly running down on munitions. We have moved our THAAD batteries out of Korea. What does the war with Iran do to our military readiness elsewhere around the globe?
Yeah, it's a big problem. That's part of the whole cost thing. I mean, the easiest way to look at this is what's the benefit, what's the cost? You know, I walked through some of the supposed benefits that we're trying to get to, but the costs have been enormous. I mean, first of all, thousands of people have been killed. We've lost 13 U.S. service members, massive global disruption to the economy. What is it, like 14 countries now you really can't get in and out of. So the cost has been really, really high as we've gone forward. And that's certainly is one of the costs, what you outlined. So, stopping the war can begin to reduce that cost. So I don't think we've done a decent job of matching, the cost that we're paying for the benefit that we're getting.
Congressman, let me get your thoughts on our allies in the region, if we can. I know that serving on the Armed Services Committee, you're fully aware of what our allies have been going through, certainly those in the Persian Gulf. And right now, as I said earlier in some of my reporting, some of them feel a little bit abandoned because they were dragged into a war that has no end game and certainly did not have any pregame. What are you hearing that you can share with us in terms of the contacts you're having from the region, ambassadors that are expressing anything to you about this?
Yeah, no, they're very upset about the way this played out because they're bearing the cost of it. And look, this feeds into two major problems with Trump's foreign policy. One, it is all belligerence. There was a great, I don't have the quote in front of me, but the Financial Times shortly after the war started had a quote from some Mideast foreign policy official basically saying the U.S. is dragging us into this war, all these costs, and then they slap a 15% tariff on us, even as they're trying to ask us to help them with a war that we didn't want and that we're bearing the bulk of the cost for. So the rest of the world is looking at this and saying, we better find alternatives to a partnership with the U.S. because they are unreliable and very, very destructive. And the second thing is, Trump just approaches everything from the standpoint of he can bully it into submission. It's sort of the way he ran his businesses back in the day, filing lawsuits against everybody, not paying his bills. Just the assumption that basically if you have someone you disagree with, well, punch them in the face and make them basically say uncle. Well, now that he's punched someone in the face who isn't saying uncle, he doesn't really have another play. And the people who are paying the highest cost for this, obviously, are our Gulf allies. I mean, we talk about oil a lot, we talk about natural gas, but any aspect of their economy, tourism, the financial sector, all of that's shut down because they're in the middle of a war zone. They're paying an enormous cost for Donald Trump's hubris, and he's not trying to help them at all in that process.
Congressman Adam Smith, thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks for the chance.
Next up, Trump's twisted war pitch to the American people. You're watching the Weekend Primetime on MSNOW.